A lot of people out there are concerned that EU5 is not going to have the same amount of content as EU4 has. Oh, it's going to take 5 years before we get the same amount of content. Guys, don't bother to play with it. It's going to take 5 years of DLCs to take the content, bro. Trust me, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get where you're coming from. They do have a little bit of a precedent with that, where they release an unfinished game and they add a lot of DLCs in order to make it playable. However, today's dev diary made me personally really change my opinion about EU5, because I do think EU5 is going to have more content at launch than EU5 has right now. Why do I say that? Well, I'm going through the 18 institutions and 6 ages that you start with, and then I'm also analyzing the comments from Johan's today's Tinto talk, as well as all the thought that went behind all the features of implementing these institutions and these ages. And I'm slowly realizing that as it stands from what I'm reading from this diary and the couple few previous ones, EU5 is going to have more content than EU4. Like, the research is way more in-depth, the institutions, the laws, everything is way more in-depth. I genuinely think this is going to be the most insane game everyone's ever going to play in the grand strategy field. Hear me out what I have to say about the Tinto talks in this video, because I really think you're going to be on board with me after you see what I'm talking about. And also, don't forget to subscribe, or I'm coming for that schmugadungs. I know you got some. I freaking saw you. I saw you using the schmugadungs. Give me some. We start the dev diary strong with Johan pretending once more this is not EU5 and it's Project Caesar. Then he mentions that the ages and institutions concepts first introduced in EU4 were a convenient mechanic to make different eras feel different, but soon became too gamified, with development ruining the institution game. I actually agree with that. Every age introduces several new redacted, adds several possible new government reforms you can pick from, impacts the price stability of goods, and also has some direct impact on every country. In every age, the amount of gold you pay for your levies will increase. So that's the same like in EU4. With every single military technology, you get an increase of price for your units, 8% for the mercenaries and 2% per technology level for the regular units in EU4. And the size of the army you're expected to have increases. So pretty obvious. 1300s, most nations could field around a few hundred, maybe a few thousand units, whilst in the 1700s we're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions in some cases, right? Probably not millions, 17, that would be like 19, right? Each age is global in the world, but its true impact is gradual, and we'll see what he talks about, what he means by this in a few seconds. There's no special mana you gain through achieving goals that you can use to stack modifiers with. Yes, we already know there's no mana, but there's still some other modifiers that you can not necessarily stack, but multiply with one another, because we've already seen that there are certain multipliers given out from different legislations and so on, institutions and so on. Now, this is actually what the institution screen looks like right now. It's absolutely glorious. We've got 6 ages, and the same tab that has the ages also has the research, which we're going to talk about next week, apparently. Research and technology. Technology, research, and national ideas also next week, which kind of makes me think that this game's going to get announced by the end of the year, because the rate in which we're seeing all of this is really fast. So I'm expecting an announcement by the end of the year, and then a release mid of 2025, if I was to take it by all the dev diaries that we see right now, and from all the information given in the dev diaries also. We got Age of Traditionalism, which includes 3 institutions: feudalism, legalism, meritocracy. Then we got Renaissance, Discovery, Reformation, Absolutism, and Revolutions, with some of the more cool stuff here being artillery in the Age of Reformation. I would assume that does not necessarily mean that you do not have artillery until then, because that would be strange, seeing as in 1337 artillery was used all over Europe. In the 100 Years' War, in Anatolia to a certain extent it was used amongst the Beyliks, and in the Balkan Wars. The point is that you should have artillery from day one, if you ask me. That would be historical and more fun. Of course, make it really, really bad artillery at the start of the campaign, and then make it better as you progress. Now, the institution has 3 modes. You have it set to dynamic, historical, or random. We find out about that from another post he made afterwards. I'll show you guys in a few seconds. He says that each age has 3 institutions that will spawn. Each will unlock something that we don't need to know about now and spread across the world. So what are the institutions going to unlock? unlock? They're going to unlock some technology that will spread across the world. We have designed the institution spawns to be more rigid for the first ages and be more flexible in the later ages to guide the game in a certain direction. So that's the default. Dynamic is the default. For those of you who dislike the dynamic spawning of institutions, you can put it in historical mode and it will spawn in the same location every time. All three of the modes, random, dynamic, and historical, are Iron Man and achievement compatible. And by saying that they're Iron Man and achievement compatible, he confirms that achievements, you don't need to get achievements in Iron Man. You can get them in non-Iron Man mode like you get them in Victoria 3 right now. And this here is what I'm talking about. Just a few hours after the dev diary was released, he came up with another post where he implemented some of the feedback from the comment section. First of all, we're adding in the prerequisites for many institutions for the dynamic spawn, so that for industrialization, the location needs to be manufactories, fully progressed, and there you go, random city. Institutions will spawn in a random shitty. Simple rule for those that think the game is more challenging and fun: if banking spawns in Cusco Professional Armies Azao, no, it will not block achievements or Iron Man runs. The fact that he says this separately pretty much tells me that achievements in Iron Man don't necessarily need to be the same game, right? You can have non-Iron Man achievements. Also mentions that he coded a system where any locations which could have been a birthplace for an institution now gets a natural increase. So the historical locations or the bigger cities will get a bit more of a chance of getting these spawned with the random city selected. So as you can see here, for professional armies, the historical location is Paris, and that's why Paris, when you select the random city, will get 85% chance of getting it spawned in there, whereas there's other cities that also have a small chance. We also have a first look at the institution itself of professional armies. There you go. It says could have spawned the institution +1 land area, movement cost, average satisfaction, port development. So all of these things play into it essentially when spawning in, for example, professional armies. After it has spawned in Paris, this is what it looks like for Lisbon, gaining about 2 every month, getting the institution in less than 50 months. So this is the progress for gaining professional armies. It's going to cost 308 ducats. So this is pretty late game technology, which means that by that particular time in the campaign, 308 ducats is going to be nothing compared to your actual income as the nation. And it also costs 63 stability due to only 20% of the population having been exposed to it. So the more population gets exposed to professional armies institution, or as I like to call it, the ideas of professional armies, the cheaper it becomes to actually embrace this particular institution. Now back to the main dev diary. As the technology system in Project Caesar is different than the one in EU4, missing an institution for a while is not a complete disaster, but more on that next week. Here's my thought on this, right? I don't know. I haven't seen the next week dev diary yet, but here's my thought. I think that research is going to be exactly the same like in Victoria 2. Why do I think that? Because we have the tab here. Clearly, the research is going to be tab oriented. That means you're going to have a screen with different researches on it that you can maybe unlock, say, as you do in Imperator, not necessarily Victoria 2, because Johan likes that style, I noticed, where you get some sort of item, like some innovation point or whatever you want to call it, right? I forgot what it's called in the Imperator Rome, but something like that, right? You get that innovation point and you can use that innovation point to choose between different available technologies. Or like Victoria 2, you have the different available technologies and you just click on one and it just researches it until the end, and then you can click on the next one and your progress gets saved for each technology. If it's not that, fine, I accept being wrong, but I'm 100% sure that's what technology is going to look like next week. You have predefined spots for institutions spawning with dynamic in the early phase, right? And then as you progress, there's a slight higher chance of it spawning in another spot, but considering the chance we saw there with Paris having that high for professional armies, and professional armies are when? That is in freaking Age of Renaissance 3. So that is basically 1400, 1440 maybe even. If by 1440 it's that rigid still, holy mother, that's going to be very linear. It's going to make it so that it's impossible to get certain institutions as other parts of the world, right? And then if you're just going to put it random, I mean, sure, that might fix things. Then if it's random, like Johan said, what if it spawns in some weird location like Zazao or Cusco? I think personally, the dynamic system as it is now is okay with one major change. There should be certain things that impact the institution spawn. So for example, sure, have it a high percentage chance for Paris, but then also have it a high percentage chance for another city that has the same prerequisites. So say for example, you make the prerequisites for an institution to spawn be a certain amount of population, certain amount of literacy, certain amount of goods roads in that particular city. I don't know, something of the sorts. And now if there's another city on the entire map that matches that, then that city should also have an equal chance of spawning that institution, even in the early phase of the campaign. But that's just my 2 cents. Maybe you guys don't like that feedback. Let me know. Actually, I'm curious what you think. This is just simply meant so that it's a little bit more similar to the EU4 system, where you can actually spawn in Asia certain institutions. Obviously, you don't have development like you have in EU4 with the mana points, so it's a different system altogether. But having it as rigid as this, or as random on the other opposite spectrum, simply means unbalanced in my opinion. But who am I kidding? Everyone's going to play historical, am I right, guys? In later ages, you can also assign a member of your cabinet to promote institutions in a province, which will then progress any institution you're aware of in the locations of that province. Promoting is heavily based on the burghers and the literacy of that location. Also, I forgot to mention, when an institution has spread to more than 10% of your population, you can embrace it, meaning you will get access to the technology it will give you. Or this might not be technology, but it might be mechanic, a technology that unlocks a new mechanic. Say, for example, with meritocracy, you get some technology or mechanic that lets you promote certain people. Or with professional army, I'm 100% sure it's technology though, because with professional army, say, you can establish standing armies, right? Albeit you should have standing armies prior to 1400s. Maybe get more standing armies, which would be a technology. There's 6 ages in the game. 1337, we start in the Age of Traditions, and each age from there on lasts about a century. So 100 years for each of these, about 500 years, because we start in April 1337, so we have a whole 1 month of Age of Traditions before we begin with the Age of Renaissance. I also like this depiction of Age of Renaissance, because technically Renaissance was literally in the 1300s, not the 1400s, right? 1400s was for sure Age of Discovery. Now, who said that it was definitely the best of times? No, it wasn't. Excuse me, it was okay for the kings. What about the serfs that were majority of the people dying from the plague, and your landlord coming and not even giving you medicine, just asking you for more tax? Come on, man. Age of Traditions. Different societies have been established throughout the world for hundreds and thousands of years, and their foundations can be found in traditions such as legalism, meritocracy, and feudalism. Legalism, which is the very first institution, by the way. We gave this institution the spawn of Rome. Even though there are plenty of places that could compete for it, most of the old world had this institution spread and embraced at the start of the game. The theories behind legalism have been integrated into Chinese societal structures for hundreds of years. The concept that pure idealism and domestic stability leads to a rich, prosperous state and a powerful army is deeply rooted in the forms of thought in Eastern Asian domains. However, as merchants and migrants brought forth the exchange of ideas, the concept of legalism made its way across the vast Muslim world. There, it adopted the stance of a symbiotic relationship between heathens and believers in Islamic states. Legalism in Europe simplifies the rite of passage from the dying grasps of the great Roman Empire to its remnant legal roots, many of which would later serve as the basis of the new jurisprudence across the old continent. Okay, seriously, did they make this with the AI? This sounds exactly what like something AI would come up with. But I like it. Well said. Yes, legalism was prevalent both in Asia and within Europe and North Africa, of course. I disagree with one bit here, saying that it was from the dying grasps of the great Roman Empire to its remnant legal roots. What are you talking about? It's 1337, okay? The Roman Empire is still around, okay? It's called the Eastern Roman Empire, or a Byzantine Empire by us, but they still call themselves the Roman Empire. Legalism, which started within ancient Greece and the Roman Empire, was still around continuously, okay? Because the empire never collapsed. I'm totally not a Roma boo. Now, the next institution, which is meritocracy, it has the birthplace in Beijing at the start of the campaign, and it only spread through East Asia. Ooh, spicy. Why do I say spicy? Well, for 2 reasons. First off, the word itself, meritocracy, is from mereo, which is the Latin word for worth or merit, and then krati is from kratos, which is strength in Greek, ancient Greek. That being said, meritocracy was a known concept in the ancient Greek world and actually in the Byzantine Empire. Sure, it was not as practiced in 1337 by the Byzantines, but it definitely was known and to a certain extent more or less practiced in certain parts of the Byzantine Empire, as well as in the Anatolian parts. The Beyliks had some limited amounts of meritocratic systems where warriors would be promoted based on their actions in battle and so on. And not only that, but in the Rashidun Caliphate also, it was the way that they assigned caliphs in the early phase of the empire, so of the caliphate. So I would say that it should be Asia, Anatolia, and maybe Iraq, Egypt should have meritocracy, whilst India should not have it. Europe should mostly not have it. Maybe like should be a little bit spread around Greece, if you could do that, in Anatolia. I don't know how you can set up the institutions at the start, but just my 2 cents really about this particular institution. Feudalism, yay! Its birthplace in Aachen and still used by 2024 landlords. Who said that? Nobody. The capital of the Roman Empire. Oh, excuse me. What did you just call it, sir? No. That was Charlemagne's empire. That was not the Roman Empire. Okay, let's not confuse things here, all right? It spread in most of the old world as well. Over time, most societies develop a need for common structure with stronger and more permanent institutions of government. After the fall of the Roman Empire, this came to be filled by a number of institutions and customs that, taken together, are often considered to be part of the European feudal system. For similar reason, permanent governments and societal systems have formed all over the world, some of which have roots that go far back than feudalism itself. Yes, feudalism should be a staple of Europe at the time, obviously, but it also should be, of course, spread all around North Africa, especially. Not so much around China, actually, or for that matter, so much around India, because they had pretty different systems, actually. I like the picture. Let's talk about the next age now. Age of Renaissance. A new age of knowledge, arts, and progress is emerging due to growing interactions and institutions in the medieval societies affected by Pax Mongolica, the Islamic Golden Age, and the European Renaissance. And speaking of, the Mongols were massive advocates of meritocracy, the one we talked about earlier, so 100% there should be meritocracy spread all around the Horde land. The reason the Horde was so successful under Genghis Khan and its successors was simply because they promoted the strong, the smart, the ones that could do and showed that they are able to do and were worth of getting promoted. So meritocracy was a staple of the Mongols. As you would imagine, Renaissance will spawn as soon as the age starts in northern Italian cities with the university. The historical location is Florence. Starting now in the 14th century, the wealthy and powerful in the Italian city-states have been patronizing artists and scholars. Probably should say patronizing. No, wait, which one is the not bad word? Patronizing, patronizing. In any case, what this tried to say is that, you know, they've been sponsoring artists in their quest to explore all the Roman and Greek societies of their forefather. Yes, Renaissance is essentially a re-emergence of arts, societal values, technologies even from ancient Rome, and I'm talking Western ancient Rome predominantly, but also to a lesser extent actually importing ideals from the actual Roman Empire, or the Byzantines as we call them, with a lot of the Byzantines, whenever their lands were conquered by the Turks, having fled over to Italy, and as such giving rise to some ideas and some new ways of thought that benefited the Italian states. Banking, everybody's favorite. This can spawn in any town or city with more than 1,000 burghers in Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East, where the owner has a strong capital economy, societal value. The historical location is Genoa, however, so basically half of these are going to be in Italy, aren't they, if we go historical? I'm going to switch my first game to historical and play as the Romans, okay? Because, of course, as the Romans, we're going to take back Italy. It's ours. Money lending has existed since metal-based coins appeared in antiquity. However, it depended on some individuals and their family groupings or on ancient states. A shift occurred in the Middle Ages, encouraged by the renewed growth of long-range commercial activities on the Eurasian continent and its peripheries. Specialized moneylenders began to organize when Jewish communities started operating between Christian and Islamic worlds. However, the boom of credit demand that followed the Crusades in the 12th century encouraged merchants in the Italian city-states to create large structures for money lending, effectively founding the first banking institutions such as the Peruzzi and Bardi houses. More instruments were developed like bills of exchange and debt bonds, and banking dynasties such as the Medici, Fugger, Welser soon became as powerful as states. One thing I want to add about this is I like that he mentions the 12th century with the Crusades. The reason that the Templar Knights became so powerful and strong was because they essentially became a bank. So the end phase of the Templar Knights, they were lending money to the French crown, they were lending money to everybody, and as such, those people had to pay back the money to the Templars, and they were like, maybe we should just wipe them all out and say they're heretics instead of actually paying them back. That's a good idea. Let's do that. And the rest is history, as you probably know. And another reason why the Jewish communities in particular became money lenders is because in Islamic and Christian religions, it was seen as not the most Christian or Islamic profession being a money lender. Let's just put it as that. That did lead to the Jewish communities getting ostracized because people had to pay back the money, and instead of paying back the Jewish communities, well, let's just say that what the Templars had to endure, they were not the only money lenders that had to endure that stuff. Professional armies, this can spawn in any location in Europe which has some manpower produced where the owner has a quality societal value. The historical location is Paris. Armies have been around since forever, many thousands of years ago. This form has changed over the centuries, and different types of recruitment and organization have developed in different cultures and periods. In the late Middle Ages, armies in a wide range of societies relied on levies based on the structures of feudal society, with knights and footmen forming a corps that was levied seasonally. Yeah, okay, hold on a second. I read the whole thing, okay? But hear me out here. And I kind of disagree with Paris being the historical location for professional armies to spawn. You know why? Because the Roman army, which is the Byzantine army, never stopped existing, okay? You had the legions in ancient Rome, but the Byzantine Empire, to differentiate, that we have in 1337, still had a professional standing army. It was the Imperial Tegmata. That was literally actual freaking professional army. And they also had the theme system where each region would have their own standing theme, which would be a standing army, a professionally trained army. I mean, sure, 1337 they were in shambles, but they still had the Imperial Tegmata, which was a standing professional army. And yes, they also had the Varangians, which were, as everybody knows, recruited from Anglo-Saxons and from Vikings, and were some of the most renowned soldiers at the time, which again were also a professional standing army. They were not a mercenary group. That's far from it. So I find it really weird that Paris is the historical location for the professional armies. It should be Constantinople, if anything. French, sure, would be a contender, but I wouldn't make it like 85% chance or the historical location. That's my 2 cents again. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Age of Discovery. Yay! Time to discover and be friends with everybody. At the dawn of the early modern era, new continents are being mapped whilst feudal societies slowly growing away into centralized states. For an enterprise state, this age can be seen as the foundations of a worldwide empire. So this is when you're going to get modifiers or different technologies to allow you to expand and colonize and to just wipe everybody out. The New World. This is going to be an institution. It will spawn in any port in Western Europe or North Africa with more than 2,000 burghers, where the owner has discovered the Azores and West African coastline, the historical location being Sevilla. The discovery of the New World has heralded a new era, not only for the colonizers and the colonized, but also it's led to the spread of materials and techniques, as well as realization of the vastness of the globe. Animals, crop types, silver, and disease spread across the Atlantic. The first step has been taken towards a truly global economy, with foreign lands and people being mapped and documented. Ideas, as well as religious and philosophical debate, are increasingly being colored by what we found in overseas societies. Great minds feel the need to question what was once true, and from Valladolid to Fatehpur Sikri, the nature of the world is now up for debate. Here's my take on this, guys. I really strongly believe that this institution should be available for spawn in Asia too, because there were Asian expeditions that could have ended up in the New World. Some would even say that some did end up in the New World, although we don't actually have proof of it. We do have proof of the great Chinese fleet that sailed across the eastern coast of Africa, for example. They could have went the other way and ended up in the New World, who's to say? So I think it shouldn't be restricted to West Europe and North Africa. I think it should also have the east coast of Asia, if anything, as long as, you know, you got the burgers and everything else as well there. Printing press can spawn in any location with more than 2,000 burgers, where the owner produced more than 5 paper and has an outward societal value. Sort of location is mines. All right, that's cool. I hope that the printing press is gonna offer a really good technology to spread literacy, because that would make sense. Pike and shot. This spawns in a location that has manpower produced, where the owner has professional armies and more than 20 army traditions. So now we know confirmed army tradition is still going to be a thing. Has land societal values and has gunpowder technology. There you go. As I was saying, so we're going to have technology like it is in Imperator Rome and Victoria 2, gunpowder technology. So there's going to be multiple technologies. You're going to research individually whenever. I don't know how the layout for the research is going to be, but it's going to be an individual one for sure. So gunpowder technology tells me that you're going to need gunpowder for your guns. And as I was saying in the previous dev diaries, salt, pepper, which is a requirement for for gunpowder is going to be extremely vital. I think areas that don't have salt pepper are going to be really in trouble in EU5. Historical location for this is Innsbruck, and yes, pike and shot was one of the most important changes to warfare in early modern Europe, since it gave the ability for the gunmen to shoot and get some protection whilst they were reloading. The pikemen in front would bear the brunt of the enemy charges. We got a new image over here with some priests and stuff. Now we got the Age of Reformation. I also assume that these images are going to be at the top maybe or somewhere on the screen when we have these particular ages enacted, because this makes a lot of sense, right? This looks like the Age of Discovery, this looks like the Age of Renaissance, this looks like the Age of Traditionalism, whatever the schnapps is called, traditions, my bad, and then this obviously looks like the Age of Reformation. We got confessionalism first, spawns in a town or city in Europe which has a printing press where the owner is Catholic and the dominant religion is Catholic and has a spiritualist societal value. Wow, okay, I like that. I like that because spiritualist societal value to emphasize the fact that they have the ability to reinterpret certain religious dogmas, right? Historical location is going to be in Augsburg. That's followed up by global trade, spawns in a market center in a city anywhere in the world that has the most value of trade goods. So it's literally the same like in EU4. The historical location, if you choose to switch it to historical, is not the highest value, by the way. It's only Lisbon, so keep that in mind. Obviously, dynamic is going to be better than historical, just so you know. Then that's followed by artillery. This will spawn in any city in the world that has a gunsmith and a metal workshop and where the owner has an offensive societal value. The historical location is Constantinople, and just to clarify, this does not mean that you can only recruit artillery after you got this institution, okay? I'm 100% sure that you will have artillery from day one of the campaign, but it's going to be super expensive, super inefficient early on in the campaign, and then it's going to get cheaper and more efficient as you progress. That would be the natural way of doing it. And the fact that it says here you're going to require a gunsmith and metal workshop tells me that you already need to have artillery, because that's going to be the way you produce artillery, with the gunsmith and with the metal workshop. Just saying that because I've seen some people commenting already in the comment threads and just wanted to clarify, just from a logical standpoint. Maybe I'm wrong, who's to say. Now up next is the Age of Absolutism, and I know what you're thinking, Ludi, that's the way you pronounced it just now is even worse than the way you used to pronounce it before. And to that I have to say, shut up, nerd. As governments wrest the absolute power in their countries from other parties, they are now able to devote themselves to the building of empires. This is the age of the state of rulers and their armies. So this is when you're going to have massive armies, massive authority, and you're not going to give a schnaps about anybody's opinions. Going to be the opposite of the next age. Manufactures is going to be the first institution in this particular age. This will spawn in any location with more than 100 building levels. Holy fuck, man. So in the 1600s, you're going to have in provinces 100 building levels. Holy shit. Okay, EU5 is officially Victoria 4. I'm calling it now. This is actually ridiculous. 100 building levels. What the snap? At least 20,000 burgers in one location. What? And where the owner has a capital economy societal value, which would be unlocked later in the campaign, I would assume. The historical location is Derby. Ew. Where is Derby, bro? That sounds like a horrible place to be in. Let me Google this shit. Where's Derby? Oh, wow. That's a weird location to spawn that in. Oh my god. That's actually a strange option, not gonna lie. 0 sense to me. Why do you guys think that they would spawn manufactories in this little schnapple dupe of a location? Oh, I know why. It's because I'm a Muppet. It's not Derby, Australia. What's wrong with me? Why would I even think it's Derby, Australia, dude? Clearly, it's Derby, Indiana, United States. This makes so much more sense now. Why would I even think it's a... silly Ludi. Totally not farming for comments right now. I wouldn't have. After manufactories, we have the scientific revolution. Spawns in a location with a university and a high average literacy where the owner has innovative societal value. Historical location is Cambridge. That makes a lot of sense. Now we also have a military revolution that can spawn in any capital with a lot of military buildings and a population above 50,000, which historical location would be Stockholm. Interesting choice. I'm guessing because of the Northern War, that would be right. And the last age is the Age of Revolutions, or as I like to call it, Behead Your King Friday. Questions of rights, authority, and the world itself during the Enlightenment has led to the rejection of ancient regime as absolutism gives way to revolutionary kingdoms kingdoms. We may even have some spots for republics, but don't get your hopes up. It's all going to be empires under Napoleon, let's face it. The first institution will be enlightenment. This spawns in a location, again, with the university and high average literacy, so like the last one, where the owner has innovative societal value. So you literally don't even need to change anything. You keep it the same like with scientific revolution, and then you get the same prerequisites. Historical location is Paris. That's 2 historical locations for Paris. I think we need to change that spot, sir. Why does Paris get 2 and Constantinople get only 1? Constantinople should get 5, okay? Shut up. Totally not biased here. Afterwards, you also get industrialization. This will spawn in any location with more than 250 building levels, 20 burgers, and where the owner has a capital economy societal value. Historical location is Blackburn. Oh, I know where that is. That's right above Manchester, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. Kind of fucking weird that I know that spot, but not Derby, but whatever, bro. Leviathan Mas, this can spawn in any capital with a lot of military buildings and population over 200,000, where the owner has a defensive societal value. Again, historical location Paris. Can we just ban Paris from getting any historical locations, please? Now, next week, we will talk about technology and national idea system for Project Caesar. So we're kind of like more than halfway covering most stuff. We did trade. We are going to do technology and national ideas. We did ages and institutions. We did laws. Brother, I'm telling you, this might come out a lot faster than people are imagining it's going to come out. If they rush it, might be even sooner than what I said earlier. This was a fun dev diary, though. Let's check the comment section now. Unit models are based on redacted primarily. Like I said, the redacted bit above is technology, 100% technology. And he confirms absolutism is just another word for very strong crown power. Makes sense. Basically the same like in EU4. And it seems like if you play with default options, it's likely that it's gonna spawn in Lisbon rather than Sevilla for when you start doing all that exploration. He mentions that institutions could take some time to spawn. Ages are also semi-rigid in time, so that means that it's not gonna be instant that you're gonna get an institution spawning, and might take some time. Keep that in mind. No official plans for a converter. Not to worry, the modding community got your back, Johan. 100% there's probably already converters in the works before the game's even released. I'm of the school of people that argue Renaissance started in the 12th century Italy. Dante has been dead for 16 years when the game started after all. I agree with him. 1200s, mid to late 1200s, which is the 13th century, would be when the Renaissance started happening because of the rivalries between the many small little city-states in Italy and the influx of Byzantine refugees that slowly started trickling into Italy, as well as the trade opened up by the Genoese and the Venetians that brought in new ideas from old Byzantine provinces and from other parts of the world along the Silk Road and so on. And he mentions that spread institution as a cabinet task to give your cabinet advisors or whatever they're called is going to start from Age of Discovery, so not from the Age of Renaissance. That's cool to know. Here's a nice idea from Goblin Schlev. Would we be able to get institutions spawned in multiple places? Right now it's limited to 1. We could in theory add a rule that allows multiple spawns, maybe 1 per subcontinent. 100% down with this. Why? Like I mentioned earlier, there were multiple areas which had some of these ideals, right? So it wouldn't make too much sense to have only 1. Goblin bro, amazing. Seriously amazing. I like that idea. I didn't even think about it. Good job, bro. Having it spawn in multiple places, and I like Johan's idea of 1 per subcontinent. That is great. That is actually really good. Once the age, or better yet, the year from which that particular institution can trigger, having it spawn in multiple locations would be the best thing. It would diverge from the standard that is in EU4 with 1 location now, and it would make a lot of sense in my opinion. Maybe you can divide, maybe give the first spot where it spawned a little bit of a bonus, and then afterwards the other spots where it spawns give less bonuses compared to the first one, right? Mentions it's not the late Middle Ages or the high Middle Ages because not everybody had feudal system. That is true. I like that. Age of Traditions is pretty accurate. I'd say that's good because obviously it's the whole planet, not just Europe. Also, this comment made me realize I didn't mention to you guys, if you have a trade route established with a market where an institution is present, it will start spreading to your country. So getting a trade route with whatever area has certain institutions is going to be vital in EU5. We also have confirmation that building up artillery producing infrastructure and getting access to horses are their own unique mechanics. So the natives getting access to horses and the ability to recruit artillery will be something that it is not available to everybody from the get-go and will be unlocked in one way or another. And Johan mentions they want to have the game on default options be more or less historical, and a lot of people seem to agree with them here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.